Welcome back to the F3 Northeast Wake Q Source podcast. With me today, real treat, the man, the myth, the legend, the F3 OG, the author of the Agoji 500, Tom Neal floppy disk himself. Floppy, thanks for joining us on the Q Source podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, when are we probably due up for a Goji 500? Or when should we expect to see that on the Q sheet sometime soon?
Sounds like I need to pick a date in the next month or so. Well, let me rephrase that. I got to wait until the sports hernia heals, and then I'll
Uh,
get back out and do that. Yeah, I'm actually probably need to take a little break and let things heal. But as soon as I'm back, we'll do that.
you heard that here. You don't have to fear the Agoji 500 anytime soon.
That's
Floppy's
right.
nursing the.
Couple weeks off. Yes.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the Q sheets recently, and there people have signed up. We got the summer about books, so maybe it'll be in the fall. Thank God.
I'll find my way in somewhere. Once I get healed, we'll do that again. We did do the what was it? The Agoji 750 on my 13-year anniversary.
Yeah.
So that was not much fun.
Well, thanks for joining me. I'm so glad that you came on. I think it's a perfect chapter for you. Just how you lead as a person, how you've led this community for so long. And so we're in quadrant two, Q2.2, and its influence. And so if you're following along in the book, last week we were with impact, and it kind of starts this next few weeks. It was kind of the kicking off the next few weeks. It was an acronym, impact, which is influence, missionality, positive habit transfer, accountability, correction, and targeting. And so now we're on influence. And Floppy, you've been such an influential person in our community and in Wake Forest. But I think especially in line with the way that Dredd talks about influence as someone who leads by example for sure. And I know that you've been leading me by example for the last few years as I've been eating your dust out there on at the AOs, as even in your 60s, you're still putting us young guys to shame. But love for you to impart some wisdom today about influence and this chapter and how not just how you embody it, but you embrace it and what you would want us young guys to understand about it.
Um, First off, I just want to say that, to be honest, a lot of what I do is because of the energy I get from all of you guys. So honestly, that is a lot of what fuels me. But just trying to do the things that are right, trying to share this blessing with other guys. To
Mhm.
be honest, is what I do. You all know that if I see somebody when we're out at a workout, I'm likely to go over and chat them up and just say hey and tell them about it. But it's because it's had such a big impact on me. Um, Honestly, without finding F3 13 plus years ago, I would not be at all what I am today.
Mm.
And it's got to do as much with the fact that I'm surrounded by great guys who are growing me, both, physically, emotionally, spiritually, as it is to do with anything that I've got in me to start with. Um, I I just I feel that, I'm better because of what you guys are doing for me. And so I want to share it. Um,
Well, we're definitely better with you in our lives. There's a lot of people work out for different reasons and can stick themselves or they have their little cliques or groups. But you know, we called out little Dingy last week about how he engages new people so well, and I see you. I know for me, I felt so welcome as much by anyone, but as especially by you. You know, not that you were so welcoming of me when I was a new guy, when I was an FNG, and I see you be so willing to engage in conversation, to welcome, to invite new guys into the fold, into the community, to work out alongside of new guys. And that really speaks to this influence and what makes you influential by being willing to get into people's stories that this isn't just by happenstance. You didn't just randomly do it the day I came to work out. I see you do it over and over again. So this is a lifestyle habit of yours. And so, you know, the chapter says, one of the Socratics is, can you force a man to help himself? In the sense this movement must be voluntary. So there's something clearly that you understand about getting a man to start moving in the right direction, and help us understand that, because you're very intentional about way you engage with people and the way that you lead them on.
Again, I think I go back to that whole thing of I want to share this. I needed it so bad. Didn't know I needed it. And then once I kind of understood, what it means to me, what it means to these other people that I've shared it with and have, stuck at it, worked hard at it, because it's not easy. It takes work. We got to get up early. We got to intentionally be there. We got to share it with other guys. But when I see them growing and stuff, it reinforces the fact that this is something we need, and it's something good for us, and we ought to be sharing it. We ought to, if again, maybe you don't need to do every single person you see, but maybe you do. Because it may just be that may be the right time for some guy. Um, and I've had some guys, that it's taken me a couple years to get them to come out to F3, but you know, I I don't try and pound it on them. I mention it all the time. I'll
Yeah.
say, and it's like, hey, I'm going to be out there Saturday morning. You want to come join me? Or, um, but it comes back to sharing something that's great and believing in it, and I do.
Well, it sounds like you're also the beneficiary of this concept, because you had shared earlier, you needed it, and so the Socratic is, can you force a man to help himself? And so there's clearly been a benefit of other men in your life that have been influential to you. So let's just kind of talk through the concepts a little bit. So, oftentimes we see someone and we want them to change, but you can't want it for someone, can you?
No, and it's got to be, like I said, it kind of comes back to that. It's got to be the right time. And that's why it's important to keep sharing. And again, don't shove it down their throat, but keep mentioning it. Sometimes it almost might seem pestering, but to that, let them know that, hey, you're out there. You'd love to have them come join you, see what it's like. Um, and it's got to be the right time for the guys.
So then what are the next Socratic is, how can one man help another man change his life? So if we can't change someone's life for them, then is the right way to look at it almost like a farmer planting seeds?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very apt. What's the mention that you did, this weekend when you saw somebody, it might not grow for 6 months, might be a year, who knows what, but at least at some point in their life when they, whether it's because they're feeling really down or they're feeling good or whatever it is inside of them that is the right time, they've got the information, and hey, they've gotten a nice invitation. They know they're good guys out there who are willing to help them and get them through that awkward initial part. Could be awkward. May Some people may just flow right into it. It felt great for me from the get-go. But just knowing that there's people out there to help makes a lot of difference, I think, too.
Yeah. So with or without F3, just in general, I think this is a good Socratic, the question that I would have for you from the Socratic is, what does influence look like? What has influenced you over your life? I mean, you're moving into the legacy part of your life where you've been walking as an influential man in the community for a while, but what has influenced you over your journey?
Um, just seeing so many people that have been there for me when I've needed something, needed help from someone, or, not even where they've explicitly responded to my requests for something, but they've given of themselves.
Yeah.
Uh, they've shared freely of something that they had, and, to help educate me or to help me get through a hard time. Um, they care. So I think that's important too, to see somebody that isn't doing it because they're going to benefit directly necessarily themselves, or that's not their goal, but they care about you.
Yeah, their service is people lead through their service, right? So I think the concept introduced a couple weeks ago that Dredd continues to build upon in the book is that continuum between being a survivor and being a servant. And a survivor is someone taking from the community because they're in need, with the ultimate goal of becoming a servant who can give back, who's not in need of taking anymore, but is able to give back into the community. And so I'm with you. Service goes a long way, right? I've definitely been influenced by the men who saw me and were willing to serve me, who were to pour into my life and the needs that I had.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Agree 100%.
And then, they also the chapter work continues to work out the concept of the sad clown, which is, the man has got the painted face. He looks the part, but he's not really living it. And I think if we think about, being influential, words only go so far. I don't know about you, but I've kind of got to a place in my life probably about a decade ago where I appreciate the sentiments, I appreciate the kind words, but put up or shut up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It takes more than words. It takes, real action. Um, and, I guess one of the few things I can do to help is show guys that unless I've got a sports hernia, I'll try and be there 5, 6 days a week. Or even with that, maybe I show up and, I just walk around or I'm present. But I think
Or no
that's
matter how
where
many
the
days
be
you're there,
present.
that or the fact that you're in the trenches, you're on the grind, you're right there step by step with them. Sometimes influence is also just catching the pace with the guy and sticking with them the whole workout. I've seen you do that. I've seen little Dingy do that. There's guys who will go find the guy that's struggling and will just stick with them. And I don't know, a few months ago, there's a new guy came, and I don't know if we end up calling him Ralph or whatever, but he threw up in the middle of the workout. But Rio grabbed him and stuck by him pace by pace for the
Yeah.
whole 45-minute grueling workout and served him just as much with his presence as anything else. This was a man clearly in need of someone to be a wingman to walk him through the rest of the workout, right? And I think that's what leadership and influence really looks like.
Because I mean, you got to put yourself in that guy's shoes. It's like I'm here with a bunch of guys I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I just completely, in my mind, embarrassed myself because I can't hack it. I've just barfed all over the place. I look stupid. Put yourself in that guy's shoes and do what you can to help him through because you want him to come back.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the goal. You want him to be successful.
yeah. I think F3 in the Q Smart material has been a great environment to think about leadership. Um, because of the community aspect of it. And I think these concepts apply so well to the workouts where we're in community. But I think it's a microcosm that allows us to take it outside into the rest of our life, into our professions, into our families. And we've been talking directly about the workouts, but I'd love to kind of land the plane of the conversation as we take this concept of influence outside of how we're going to lead the guy that shows up who's an FNG to either, workplace or family. And I think it applies out there too. The desire for people to be led, but being led by a leader who won't just lead in what he says, but will lead in what he does.
And hopefully in all stages of your life, you're trying to be an asset. You're trying to
Yeah.
help those folks around you get through whatever, because life's full of hardship.
Hmm.
Um, we experience it ourselves, and so why not help the guy next to us? Um, Help them get through what they're doing, what's hard in their life, help them in any way we can. And that's where a lot of this, to me, that we learn in F3 is directly applicable to everything else we do.
Yeah, I think so. Um, you start to, especially if you watch FNGs come, you watch guys who, you've seen so many of us come in horrible shape. And years later, we're part of the community. we're in much better shape. And in the chapter really talks about movements or release of energy, and so many men are living lives where there's this inert potential that's trapped in a survivor mentality or behind a sad clown face. And it's our job as leaders to help release the energy, release the potential inside of other men. And you've
Yeah,
been probably on the front row, front lines of that in the Wake Forest and Raleigh community, leading us, watching us unlock this hidden potential inside of us through this community that we've created. But I mean, I think that's how much better of a world is it than when each man is able to release that hidden potential.
it is great. I mean, I've loved seeing this whole community grow from, a dozen guys to, we've got so many guys that are, I don't know, they like you said, they've been free to lead. They've realized that, hey, I've got potential inside of me. I've got abilities and capabilities, and I can share those now because we've kind of bred this community where, you can go from being uncertain of yourself and, within 6 months, even some guys a lot quicker than that, where they're comfortable enough to get up in front of strangers and, lead a workout or own something that they
Hmm.
want to do in the community. And it's very satisfying seeing that. And like I said, over the last 13 years, it's just been, it reaffirms all the things I believe about F3 that are good.
Yeah, I think it was really on display a couple weeks ago at this second quarter service project where we showed up to the Hope and Vine service
Oh, but we all
project.
got poison ivy, you mean? Here we
We
go.
yeah, you still got the battle scars to show it, but that was, we say that we're small workout groups for the invigoration of male community leadership. And when I was there working, I'm seeing 20 F3 guys just, going to town, just revolutionizing this widow's yard. I'm saying this is what the invigoration of male community leadership looks like. It
Yeah.
was on display because there was a need in the community, and the leaders of the community said, "I'll be there."
And you
And
would not believe this is my neighborhood that we did
right,
it. I got hit by 5 or 6 people. Hey Tom, what was all this about? I saw your F3 guys were out there, and that it was impactful, not just to the widow,
right.
but to a lot of other folks in the neighborhood who were like, wow, this is really cool. Um,
Yeah, it's like the call went out, the bat sign was put in the sky, and the Cape Crusaders showed up for the fight. I mean, more guys showed up than signed up on the spreadsheet. And after the event, the women that run the ministry called my wife and said this wouldn't have been possible without the F3 community. What they were able to come do made this event a success. And I think it speaks to what the community is able to do, but it speaks to this concept of influence being about us helping each other unlock that potential that's inert inside of us, that's ready to be released, that's ready to make an impact in our community, right? That's ready to lead our companies and our families into better places because there's widows, there's orphans, there's other men out there that need people to stand up and say, "Follow me, I know the way."
yep. And then to see them catch fire and realize I can do this. I can even start some of this stuff on my own. I don't have to be led. I can be the leader. That's what's
Yeah.
that's what's so invigorating about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, as we land this plane, I just want to yet again affirm you as a leader. I've just so appreciated knowing you. You've led me and so many other packs as we joined this community. You welcomed us with open arms. You showed us a way, mainly by kicking our butts out there. You showed us that at 44, I still got a long way to go. And you haven't just led with your words, you've led with your deeds. You've led by showing up, you've led by giving it your all, you've led by with your positive influence, and we are the beneficiaries of your long commitment to our community.
I'm very honored. I appreciate it. And I just hope you guys will pick me up as you run past me in the coming years and carry
Be
me
a few years for that.
on.
But We appreciate it. Well, Pax, I hope that you read this chapter. I think we're starting to get into some powerful stuff in this concepts. We can look at some of these leaders in our community and see how they're already living it. Dread is giving language to what we're seeing leaders like Floppy already live. And we'll see you this week at the Q Source table.
Thanks, man.